We are here with Crissa Constantine, author of Broken Doll. Crissa, by the end of the novel, the reader realizes that Sunny isn't everything she seems to be. Are Sunny and Lisa based on real people?
Yes, they are. I was a new school teacher in Louisiana in a special area where the kids came from very poor homes, and it was my first teaching assignment, and I was very, very nervous because the kids were totally out of control. I couldn't control the kids at all. It was just, I thought I was going to get fired. And lo and behold, a fantastic woman came into my life, a fellow teacher who gave me the courage to handle these kids. I really was so sure I was going to get fired, and yet she told me, no, you've been sent by God, by an angel to help these kids. Just keep going, don't give up. And she was right, and that made all the difference. I was so grateful to her, and we became fantastic friends, even though we were very different. I was shy, and she was flamboyant and charismatic. But it's based on real people, but I had to be very careful when I wrote the actual novel to change a lot of things, because two lawyers warned me that publishers don't want to write stories like this, or they don't want to publish them because you can get sued. Even if you change the names, that's not enough. You have to change events and circumstances. So I took great care to change many, many things so that it really is loosely based in reality, but can now safely be called a novel. It's definitely a novel. And I think we can learn a lot from that novel, that certain people who are charismatic and flamboyant can teach us how to live life fully. So I thought there was a very strong lesson in this story. So I felt compelled to write it, even though I had to change a lot of things. So it's definitely based on real people. Definitely.
Well, in addition to being an author, you are also an accomplished musician. How does being a composer affect your writing, if at all?
At first I thought maybe the musical part of me doesn't affect the literary part of me, but the more I thought about it, I realized that musicians are trying to reach basically from one heart to another. I don't think you can be a snob and be a musician at the same time. You have to be a bit of a clown, because you have to wear your heart in your sleeve. You have to reach people's hearts. So I think that has made my writing more emotional, and that's one of the reasons why people tell me that they find my writing very gripping and very, sometimes they cry when they read it. So, and I'm very happy to hear that, because as a musician, that's what I want. I want people to get very emotional when they hear me play. So I think it has influenced my writing very much. So I think so.
Well, Broken Doll is your second published book. Do you plan on writing more books in the future?
At the moment, I'm not sure if I will or not, but I should say never, because I went to a Bible study last fall. It was a study of Daniel, and I'm an ovarian cancer survivor. I wanted to distance myself from that cancer as much as I could, but after that Bible study, I was inspired to write about my experience with ovarian cancer, and a little self-published booklet just seemed to come out of nowhere because of the Bible study. And here it is. It's called Through the Fire, inspired by Daniel going through the fire. And it's a fundraiser to beat ovarian cancer, the silent killer. I'm trying to raise awareness about ovarian cancer because it is a silent killer. Most of the symptoms are so vague that women think they just have ordinary problems that could be from any other disease, and they may find out that their cancer is already so far advanced that it could kill them. In fact, only 1/3 of the women actually survive ovarian. And I was inspired to write this booklet because of the Bible study. So I'm not discounting a sudden inspiration. So I may write, if I could write this, I may write another book. I just might.
Well, Hillary Clinton endorsed your book, your first book, Banished from the Homeland. How did you get an endorsement from such a high-status individual?
I had heard that Bill Clinton was in Toronto a few years ago raising money for a Holocaust memorial for the Jewish people. And I know that a lot of Holocaust memorials have been set up around the world, and then the public, the global awareness of the Holocaust against the Jews is so huge and so enormous that I thought, well, it's about time that the world maybe is aware of the gigantic Holocaust that Stalin perpetrated. He wiped out apparently over 50 million people, that's 50, including his own Russian people, Polish people, Ukrainians, anyone in Eastern Europe. And because he wanted to establish communism. So many people thought Hitler was the main bad guy in the last century. Well, Stalin was just as bad, so was Mao Zedong, but we won't get into that. And since my mother was born in Estonia and had to flee because of the Russians, the communists, I thought there should be at least one memorial for people who suffered because of Stalin. And so I wrote a letter to Hillary Clinton because I didn't know where Bill was. He wasn't the president anymore, but I knew that Hillary Clinton was in the Senate. So I wrote her a letter telling her that if Bill is raising money for a Holocaust memorial, maybe he can also raise money for a memorial for Stalin's victims. And I told her that I really admire her as a senator and so on, and I sent her a copy of the book. And it was in the summer when I sent her the copy, and I didn't hear back. And then one day in November, a few months later, I got a letter back from her saying that the book was wonderful. And so by trying to make the world a better place, by sending the book to very prominent people like this who can change the world consciousness and make the world a better place, by sending it to politicians like this who have such power, I thought I could do my part to make the world a better place. And I'm just lucky that she liked the book and wrote me the letter.
Well, what advice do you have for aspiring writers?
I think they need to look deep inside their hearts and decide if they really want to write. And if they do, they should go ahead and full steam ahead and have a very thick skin, not to get discouraged easily, because there's a tremendous amount of apathy there, and also just in the world in general towards people who try to write. And also there's a very critical attitude among publishers. It's very difficult for first-time writers to get published. They think, well, who are you? You haven't proven yourself yet. So you have to develop a thick skin and to be very persistent. But again, you have to look inside your own heart first. Do you really want to write? Then go for it and be very persistent. And also another thing, not to expect big money necessarily from writing, because you may be lucky and write something that will give you a lot of money, but then again, you may not. But most writers don't make big money. You know, the J.K. Rowlings of this world are very rare. Most writers don't make money, so you have to be prepared that this has to be for the love of writing, not for the love of money, but to be very persistent.
Well, thank you so much, Crissa.
Thank you.
Enjoy your time in Los Angeles here at the Book Expo.